Now, Park Police just sprayed something. You can see them spraying right now. You can see them spraying. They're backing up the people.
That's Shomari Stone. He's a reporter for the NBC affiliate in D.C., reporting tonight from Lafayette Square, right across from the White House. D.C. and federal park police have used gas again against protesters in Lafayette Square. The U.S. Parks Police just sent out this statement saying, quote, the USPP, with assistance from the Metropolitan Police Department, the D.C. Police, and Secret Service, are working to prevent the destruction of the Andrew Jackson statue in Lafayette Park in front of the White House. Quote, the park is temporarily closed.
A tense scene where you are now, Shomari.
Yes, Jim, it is definitely tense. I'm here at Black Lives Matter Plaza in 8th Street Northwest, across the street from Lafayette Square Park. You can look over here and you can see these protesters have moved all the way up here to the intersection at 8th Street Northwest. There is a line of Metropolitan Police officers, U.S. Park Police, wearing protective gear, shields. Some have batons. They have protective shields, and you can see them extending all the way down to Vermont. And what they are trying to do is make sure that these protesters do not cross the street and gain access to the Andrew Jackson statue, which is what they did earlier today. The White House is in a distance behind it. Let's roll some video right now. Now, this video surfaced on Twitter earlier today. Crowds tangling with officers. People were telling us police used some sort of chemical irritant to clear them out. And you can see the officers advancing on protesters, pushing back in a line as they chanted, move back, move back. Now, the protesters were able to wrap ropes around the statue and tried to pull it down. They say it represents oppression and slavery. Andrew Jackson, the 7th president of the U.S., was a slave owner, and some historians say he oppressed Native Americans, which is why the protesters chanted, quote, hey, hey, ho, ho, Andrew Jackson's got to go, end quote. Now, again, police sprayed either OC spray or pepper spray to move the crowds back. Many of the protesters were sprayed in the eyes and on their clothes. They used water to flush away the burning sensation. Now, one officer was seen shooting at protesters, but a demonstrator told me it was a non-lethal rubber bullet used to disperse the crowd. We're now going to hear from a couple of the protesters about their experience.
You want to celebrate a history of hatred instead of building a future of love. Our plan was to put a round table for discussion for the community there, to be the place on the lawn of the White House. What other symbol is there in this country that's supposed to represent democracy?
It should be not going to put in a museum so people can understand the history of what's going on here. It shouldn't be thrown away, but it should be put away.
Now there is a standoff between the protesters and police. In all fairness, there are some people who do not want to see this statue taken down. They also don't want to see Confederate statues taken down because they say they are a part of American history. Although that history is painful for some, they say that removing the statues is a form of erasing that history. You can see now protesters have formed a line. There are police officers with the line as well, blocking them from gaining access to Lafayette Square Park. And I'm looking across the street, and in the darkness over there with my eyes, I can see that there are also lines of police around the perimeter of the Andrew Jackson statue. Now, we'll continue to bring you updates on my Twitter page at Shomari Stone and NBC Washington, and throughout this newscast if anything happens here in front of Lafayette Square Park. I'm Shomari Stone. Back to you.
Hey, Shomari, quickly, you've been out there all afternoon. Is this the largest the crowd has been? Any sign that it's going to go home at any point?
There is no sign that these folks are going to go home. And what's interesting, Jim, if you move right over here, Brooks Meriwether can show you. You can see that area is opened up. There were protesters there, and they then left, and they, from what I'm hearing, plan on coming back. So what happens sometimes is when the other protesters come back, that in turn gets these folks excited, and then sometimes you could have clashes due to that arousal, that excitement, as protesters could move on the police officers, who then will try and push them back, and that's when the clashes occur.
All right, Shomari, we are going to keep your camera up live there should the situation change.